If one day your cousin slapped your 16-year-old daughter right in front of you, what would you do? I was in that exact situation. Even worse, my mom and dad defended him. Why did he act that way? And how did I stand up for my daughter? Stay with me. I will tell you the story of what happened. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm 45 years old. I work as a sales director for an insurance company in Chicago. This job doesn't make me rich, but it provides a stable life for me and my family. My husband, David, is an accountant at a used car dealership near our home. He's an incredible man who can balance his career and care for his family. We've been married for 20 years, and I still feel lucky to have him by my side daily. We live in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Chicago with our beautiful 19-year-old daughter. Her name is Sophia, and she means the world to both David and me. Over the past 20 years, we've shared many happy and unforgettable memories. Sophia has always been a bright, kind, and well-behaved kid. She's done well in school and has never given us any reason to worry about her studies. What's special about Sophia is her deep love for music, especially for Taylor Swift. Her bedroom is covered in posters of her idol, and every time a new song drops, she's the first to listen and share it with us. I remember those nights when the whole family would sit in the living room and Sophia would sing her favorite songs for us. Her clear, sweet voice always filled our home with warmth. Looking at our lives now, most people would probably think our family is peaceful and happy, but they don't know that this peace came at a cost. We had to cut ties with our relatives after they heard our daughter during Christmas 3 years ago. The story I'm sharing with you today happened during Christmas of 2022. Sophia was just 16 years old back then, and I've never forgotten what happened that day. Initially, David and I had planned to host a small, cozy gathering at our home. We were going to invite a few close neighbors over for dinner. That's how we did it every year. Simple, warm, and free from unnecessary drama. But those plans suddenly changed when my dad, Stephen, announced that he'd be hosting Christmas at his place and inviting a few relatives to join. He said it had been a long time since the whole family got together, and he wanted to use the occasion for everyone to reconnect. After getting the invite, David and I sat down to discuss it. My relationship with my parents hadn't been great in recent years. There had been disagreements about life, money, and even how we raised our daughter. But in the end, we decided to go. At the time, I thought it would just be a regular Christmas gathering. We'd eat, make small talk, and go home. I had no idea it would be the last Christmas we'd ever spend together as a family. On the day of the party, we arrived at my parents' house around 5 p.m. 4 cars were parked along the front of their driveway, including a shiny black Mercedes belonging to my cousin Nolan. Just seeing that car already made me feel uneasy. Nolan is the person I despise most in the family. He's always showing off with flashy things and never misses a chance to mock or belittle me at family gatherings. Every time we meet, he has something nasty to say about my job, income, or how I raise my daughter. What's worse is that my entire family, from my parents to the other relatives, treats him like the gold standard of success. They constantly compare me to Nolan, wishing I had a life more like his. But they don't know that behind all that flashy appearance, he's stingy, calculating, and has his house mortgaged to the bank. I know this because his wife once confided in David about the financial struggles they were going through. Still, he keeps putting on a show to make everyone think he's living large. After parking the car neatly, Sophia, David, and I entered the house. The moment we opened the door, loud laughter from the living room echoed out. I knew right away that Nolan was once again the center of attention. There were about 10 people in the living room. Uncle Robert, Aunt Donna, people I genuinely liked were there too, and just as I expected, they were all sitting in a circle listening to Nolan brag about his latest accomplishments in that overly proud tone of his. When Nolan saw me walk in, his eyes shifted straight toward me. He immediately threw out a jab. "Oh, Jessica's here. That outfit's casual, isn't it?" A few people chuckled. I didn't respond. I'd learned to stay silent when it came to his petty provocations. After greeting Uncle Robert, Aunt Donna, and the other relatives, I headed straight to the kitchen to find my mom. She and my dad were busy finishing up the last dishes for the evening. Sweat was dripping from their foreheads. Without waiting to be asked, David, Sophia, and I jumped in to help. We started plating the food and handling little tasks around the kitchen. At least in there, we could avoid Nolan and his snide remarks. Just then, Mia, Nolan's daughter, walked past the kitchen door. 16 years old, with beautifully curled hair and a pricey designer dress. She saw me, but didn't say a word. She glanced over with the same smug look her father always had, then strutted away like she was above everything. A strange uneasiness crept in after Mia walked off. I had no idea then, but the family drama that day was going to center around her. Around 6 p.m., all the food was on the dinner table. We quickly blended into the family's shared meal. Throughout the dinner, all eyes were again on Nolan, listening to him brag about his latest accomplishments. He discussed a new business contract, an upcoming trip to Europe, and plans to buy a bigger house. Everyone in the family looked at him with admiration. As for me, I found it laughable. They were all grown adults, yet they believed every word he said without any proof. My family didn't care about what he was saying during the meal. Now and then, David, Sophia, and I passed food to one another and shared warm smiles. While Nolan was showing off about the new Mercedes, I whispered to David, "Do you think he's talking way too much?" David smiled gently and whispered, "Don't let it bother you. Let's eat and head home." Sophia sat beside us, occasionally chiming in on our little family chat. She stayed calm, even after Mia's earlier mocking glare. In that moment, I truly believed everything would be fine. If we stayed quiet and ate, we'd get through the evening. I thought after dinner, we'd say goodbye and head home peacefully. But that was just what I thought. I had no idea back then. The worst part of the evening hadn't even started. After dinner, we all gathered in the living room. My dad, Stephen, stood up and clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. As the room quieted, he smiled and roared, "It's time for us to exchange Christmas gifts." Right after his announcement, the mood in the living room instantly turned festive. Everyone looked toward the base of the Christmas tree where my parents had carefully arranged a pile of neatly wrapped presents. My parents had thoughtfully prepared small gifts to place under the tree. Everyone had something, from the older relatives to us. But that year's Christmas party was different from the others. Before anyone started opening gifts, my dad stood in the center of the living room and roared, "This Christmas is a little more special because Sophia and Mia will be getting something extra." The room suddenly filled with chatter. I could see Sophia's and Mia's anticipation when they heard there would be special gifts. Mom, Paula, came out of the bedroom carrying 2 identical gift boxes and placed them on the coffee table. Both were wrapped in red paper with elegant gold ribbons. Looking at the matching boxes, I couldn't help but wonder what my parents had put inside. Sophia also glanced at them curiously, while Mia looked noticeably more excited. Then my mom smiled and said to the 2 girls, "You can come up and pick your gift. Each of you gets to choose 1 box." As soon as she finished speaking, I noticed a strange sparkle in Mia's eyes. She seemed genuinely eager to find out what was inside those boxes. On the other hand, Sophia stayed in her seat, waiting politely to see what would happen next. We had always taught her to be respectful and let others go first. The living room was buzzing with excitement and curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what special gifts my parents had prepared for the 2 girls. At that moment, I thought my parents were being thoughtful, that they had put genuine care into preparing something nice. I didn't know that those special gifts were about to spark a family drama I'd never forget for the rest of my life. When the 2 gift boxes were placed on the table, Mia quickly stood up and stepped ahead of Sophia. As she walked, she said firmly, "I'm picking first." Mia had already reached the boxes before any of us, or Sophia, could react. She picked them up individually, gave them a little shake, then set them back to feel their weight. After nearly a minute of deciding, Mia grabbed one of the boxes and said, "I'll take this one. It's heavier, so it must have something good inside." She took the box and returned to her seat next to Nolan. Sophia hesitated a bit, then stood up and took the remaining box. She smiled politely at my parents before walking back to her seat. With the whole room watching, both girls started opening their gifts. When Mia saw what was inside, she gasped excitedly, "Wow, the newest AirPods Pro!" She immediately turned to my parents and said, "I like this gift." I noticed she never actually said thank you to my parents, the ones who had bought the gift for her. I thought they might be annoyed by her lack of manners, but instead they just smiled and said, "As long as you like it." Then it was Sophia's turn. When she opened her box, inside was a carefully sealed envelope. Mia couldn't help but jab, "Don't tell me your gift is a grocery store discount coupon." Some people chuckled at her comment, and I could already feel my irritation starting to build. Sophia, staying calm, opened the envelope. Inside was a neatly folded piece of paper. After reading it carefully, she suddenly screamed, "Oh my God, Taylor Swift's tour tickets!" She immediately ran to my parents, threw her arms around them, and said, "Thank you so much for this surprise, Grandpa and Grandma." That's when I remembered just how much she idolized Taylor Swift. She'd always dreamed of attending a concert, but the tickets were too expensive and complicated to find, so we couldn't get her one. After hugging her grandparents, Sophia asked how they managed to get the ticket. In response, my parents shared the story. A week earlier, they won the ticket during a lucky draw at the bank where they have their savings. At first, they didn't think much of it. They weren't music fans and had no idea who Taylor Swift was. But when the bank staff told them the ticket was worth $300, they decided to hold on and give it to one of the grandkids. They didn't know if either Sophia or Mia liked Taylor Swift. They figured that if the girls weren't interested, they could sell the ticket and keep the money. Watching Sophia's joy and the happy tears in her eyes, I silently thanked my parents for giving my daughter such a meaningful gift. After thanking her grandparents, Sophia returned to her seat beside David. She was still clutching the ticket in her hand, her eyes slightly red from tears of happiness. Just as she sat down, Mia walked over with a determined look in her eyes. With a sharp tone, Mia demanded, "Give me the ticket." Surprised, Sophia looked up at her, then replied politely, "No, you already got your gift." Unwilling to accept that answer, Mia said, "I'll trade you. You take my gift. I should be the one going to the concert." Hearing his daughter, Nolan noticed the tension rising between the two girls. He stood up and tried to calm Mia down with a promise. "Don't worry, sweetie. I'll get you a ticket. There's no need to fight with Sophia." But Mia quickly shook her head and told him, "Dad, the tickets sold out 4 months ago. I already checked." That changed everything. Nolan's face shifted. His eyes grew serious as he turned toward Sophia with a calculating expression. Sensing that the situation between the girls was escalating, my parents began to worry, not wanting Nolan and Mia to feel upset. My dad stepped in and said to Sophia, "Sophia, could you give the ticket to Mia? You can take Mia's AirPods." My mom agreed, adding, "Yes, sweetie, be a good girl and let Mia have it." Hearing that blatant favoritism from my parents, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I responded firmly. Mia made her choice. She has to accept the gift she picked. My dad, clearly annoyed, shot back, "We're all family here. Would it hurt for Sophia to be a little generous?" That pushed me over the edge. Sophia was their granddaughter, yet they weren't standing up for her. Instead, they were siding with Mia to keep Nolan happy. Unable to tolerate the unfairness they were showing my daughter, I turned to David and Sophia and said, "Let's go." With that, the three of us stood up and began to leave the living room. Suddenly, the room went silent and tense. Everyone stared at us in shock. Uncle Robert and Aunt Donna looked confused, unsure of what had happened. Nolan stood there with a sour expression, while Mia clutched her AirPods and stared longingly at the concert ticket still in Sophia's hand. At that moment, I thought we'd leave the house quietly and that this whole story would end there. But I was wrong. As we took a few steps toward the door, Nolan suddenly stood up. When he realized we were leaving, he quickly approached Sophia and blocked her path. With his usual confident tone, he told her, "Sell me the ticket. I'll give you $300 for it." His offer hit me like a punch. Rage instantly flared up inside me. He was trying to use money to negotiate with my daughter, as if Sophia were just some kid who could be bought. That move was like throwing gasoline on the fire already burning inside me. After his offer, Sophia firmly shook her head and replied, "I won't sell the ticket. It's my gift." Before she could finish, Nolan threw out another offer, this time more forcefully. "How about $600? Sophia clutched the ticket tighter and shook her head again, calm and unwavering. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride in her strength. Feeling insulted by being turned down by a 16-year-old, Nolan upped the stakes. He raised his voice. "What about $1,500? Seeing how far he was pushing and his pressure on my daughter, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I roared, "That's enough, Nolan!" He immediately turned toward me, eyes filled with hostility, and shouted, "Shut up, Jessica. I'm teaching your daughter the value of money." That line sent my anger through the roof. Then, turning back to Sophia threateningly, he said, $3,000. "Sophia, what do you say?" The room went eerily silent. Everyone was staring at Sophia, waiting for her response. She now felt deeply disrespected. But instead of fear or hesitation, she locked eyes with Nolan, steady and unwavering. Then she replied in a clear, confident voice, "Even if you offered me $1 million, I still wouldn't sell this ticket. The moment those words left her mouth, a sharp, dry sound snapped through the room. Right after that, Nolan screamed, "Don't you dare talk to me like that." That's when I realized Nolan had slapped Sophia. He hit her just because she wouldn't sell him the ticket. In that instant, regret flooded over me. Regret for ever agreeing to come to this Christmas party. The moment I saw Nolan slap Sophia, rage erupted inside me. I charged toward him and kicked him straight to the floor. I didn't stop there. I pinned him down and started punching his face over and over again. The living room exploded into chaos. People screamed in shock, and panic filled the air. Uncle Robert, terrified by the scene, shouted, "Jessica, stop it!" After that, Aunt Donna cried, "Someone call the police!" Just as I was about to land another punch, David and my father rushed over and yanked me off Nolan. Even after they pulled me away, I was still trembling with fury. Then my father, red in the face, yelled at me, "What the hell are you doing, Jessica? This is my house. Don't make me lose face." That sentence hit me hard. At that moment, I realized he cared more about saving face than protecting his granddaughter, and it didn't stop there. My mother stormed to Sophia and screamed, "This is all your fault. If you had just given the ticket to Mia, none of this would have happened." When those words came out of her mouth, David rushed over and wrapped his arms around Sophia. I saw my daughter's shoulders trembling, and the tears began falling. I couldn't hold back anymore. With all the fury in my chest, I shouted, "What the hell is wrong with you? Sophia did nothing wrong. The one at fault here is Nolan." Right after that, I turned to David and said firmly, "Take her to the car. When the police and CPS arrive, come back." Without hesitation, David nodded and quickly led Sophia outside. I didn't wait another second. I pulled out my phone and called 911. In a firm, urgent tone, I reported, "I need to report an assault. A minor was hit. I'm requesting police and CPS at this address immediately." The 911 operator responded, "We have officers patrolling nearby. They'll be there in about 5 minutes." I thanked them and hung up. The moment the call ended, my mother screamed in panic. "You called the police?" While she shouted, Nolan slowly stood up, wiping blood from his mouth. He gave a smug, twisted grin and said, "Let her call. The more the better. She'll be the one in trouble." Hearing that threat, I locked eyes with him and replied, "Don't forget you hit a minor. I think you'd better sell your house to pay off the bank and cover damages for my daughter." At the mention of selling his house, a few relatives turned to Nolan, their faces filled with surprise. That's when I decided to expose the truth. Calm but commanding, I told everyone that Nolan was nearly $400,000 in debt to the bank. His wife had already separated from him, and I was the one who lent her $5,000 to start a new life. As soon as I said that, Nolan's face went pale. Sitting quietly in the corner with her usual smug expression, Mia suddenly lost control and shouted, "Everybody shut up!" The room fell into a strange, heavy silence. Everyone looked around at each other, stunned and speechless. Exactly 5 minutes after I made the call, police sirens echoed from the street outside. The tension in the living room instantly tightened. Everyone froze and turned toward the window. When 2 police officers entered the house, I reported everything. I explained from the beginning how Nolan tried to buy the concert ticket from Sophia, how she refused, and how he ended up slapping her right in front of everyone. The first officer, a man in his 40s, carefully took notes as I spoke. After hearing the whole story, he said they needed to talk with the child who had been assaulted to document the injuries. I stepped outside and called David and Sophia back into the living room. When Sophia entered, both officers immediately noticed the unmistakable imprint of a hand across her left cheek and dried blood at the corner of her mouth. The injuries were obvious and undeniable. The second officer, a young woman, quickly pulled out a camera and took detailed photos of Sophia's injuries from multiple angles. She also asked Sophia to open her mouth so she could photograph the inside of the wound. While the officers were collecting evidence, I noticed Nolan sitting silently in a corner of the room. His arrogant expression was gone. The blood on his lip had dried, and the bruises under his eye from my punches were starting to darken. My parents, now realizing how serious the situation had become, started to panic. But instead of acknowledging the truth, they doubled down on defending Nolan. My father approached the officers and started telling a different story. He claimed I had attacked Nolan first for no reason. According to him, Sophia then jumped in to help me, and Nolan only acted in self-defense after being attacked by a child. My mother chimed in, adding that Sophia had been provoking Nolan all night. She said, "Sophia intentionally hurt Mia's feelings by refusing to share the concert ticket." Listening to their blatant and shameless lies, I felt a wave of rage pulse through me. I couldn't believe my parents were standing there flat out lying to the police to protect Nolan. The male officer took down their statements, but I could tell from his expression that he didn't buy it. The story didn't add up, especially with the visible injuries on Sophia's face. Thankfully, their lies didn't go unchecked. Uncle Robert, who had remained silent through most of the evening, suddenly stepped forward and spoke up. He told the officers he had a video recording of the entire incident. He explained that when he noticed Nolan negotiating with Sophia in an over-the-top way, he pulled out his phone to record it, thinking it would be just another quirky family moment. He never expected it to escalate into Nolan slapping her. The female officer immediately asked to see the footage. Uncle Robert opened his phone and showed them a 2-minute video. In the clip, Nolan is trying to pressure Sophia with money. Sophia is standing her ground, and then Nolan violently slaps her across the face. The officers carefully watched the entire video and then asked Uncle Robert to send the file to their phones as evidence. This video completely shattered the false story my parents tried to create. After watching the video evidence, the male officer told my parents that their statements did not match the facts. He warned them that providing false information to the police could be considered obstruction of justice. My parents fell utterly silent. There was nothing they could say to deny what had just been shown in the video. Every detail captured clearly, undeniably. In that moment, I looked at my parents and felt something unfamiliar, a hollow kind of sadness. That's when I realized I had lost my father and mother. They had made their choice. They defended the man who slapped my daughter instead of protecting their granddaughter. They were even willing to lie to the police to cover up Nolan's wrongdoing. Aunt Donna and a few other relatives finally spoke up too. They confirmed that they had witnessed the entire incident and that Sophia had done nothing wrong. They explained that she was trying to protect her grandparents' gift. Nolan, meanwhile, remained seated in silence, clearly realizing the weight of the evidence stacked against him. With the video out, there was no defense left, no way to twist the story. Mia sat next to him, pale and shaken. She had just understood that her father had done something terribly wrong. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness, but from fear of what was coming. The entire room fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. At that point, everyone could feel it. Things had gone too far. The damage was done, and serious consequences were now inevitable. A family was torn apart, all over a concert ticket and the unchecked pride of one man. 20 minutes after the police arrived, another car pulled up outside the house while they were still taking witness statements. It was CPS, Child Protective Services, responding to my earlier request. Carol Thompson, a veteran CPS caseworker, walked into the living room with a serious expression. She carried a bag with basic medical tools and a professional-grade camera. After the police briefed her on the situation, Carol walked over to Sophia and thoroughly examined her injuries. She measured the bruising on Sophia's cheek, took photos from multiple angles, and inspected the inside of her mouth for additional trauma. While the CPS worker conducted her assessment, I noticed David sitting close beside Sophia, holding her protectively. Sophia was still trembling slightly, but looked far calmer than earlier. Carol then asked to speak with Sophia privately in another room to ensure she could recount what happened, without pressure from the adults. 15 minutes later, Carol and Sophia returned to the living room. The look on Carol's face was noticeably more serious. She came over to me and gave me news that lifted a weight off my shoulders. Mrs. Jessica, after verifying the injuries and hearing Sophia's statement, will submit this case directly to the district attorney's office. You won't need to file charges yourself. Relief washed over me. That meant the legal system would take over from here and Sophia would be protected without us having to endure a long, stressful court process. Carol went on to explain that the incident was being classified as severe due to the violence against a minor. Nolan's actions weren't just assault. They also involved coercion and intimidation of a child. As the CPS worker did her job, I noticed a shift in the room. My parents sat quietly now, their faces heavy with worry. They were beginning to realize they had sided with the wrong person. Uncle Robert and Aunt Donna kept shaking their heads, clearly disappointed in Nolan's behavior. I overheard them whispering to each other, saying they never imagined someone in the family could hit a child. Nolan, who had primarily stayed silent, looked visibly nervous. Sweat gathered on his forehead, and he kept wiping his hands on his pants. He knew what was coming. Mia, sitting beside her father, no longer looked smug or entitled. She kept glancing toward Sophia, not with jealousy this time, but with something that looked like guilt. Maybe now she understood that no concert ticket was worth all this pain and chaos. The male officer then announced they would take Nolan into custody for formal questioning and processing. He could be released on bail, but would have to appear in court within 48 hours. Carol also let us know that CPS would monitor Sophia's well-being moving forward to ensure no long-term emotional effects. She gave us the contact information for a therapist who specializes in trauma cases involving children. Before leaving, Carol turned to my parents and stated that CPS would be officially documenting their attempt to cover up child abuse. This could impact their ability to interact with other grandchildren in the future. My mother began to cry. It was only after hearing that she seemed to grasp the real consequence of defending Nolan, that she might lose the trust of the system meant to protect children. The police then asked Nolan to stand and put out his hands. When they cuffed him, the air in the room turned ice cold. As they began to lead him out, Mia suddenly jumped up and ran after him, crying uncontrollably. "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't want you to get arrested," she screamed, watching the scene unfold. Sophia turned to me and said softly, "Mom, I feel bad for Mia." I hugged her tightly and said, "This isn't your fault, sweetheart. These are the consequences of the choices adults made." After the police and CPS left, the living room fell into dead silence. No one knew what to say. A Christmas party had turned into a family tragedy. David, Sophia, and I stood near the front door, ready to leave this house behind. We had gathered our bags and were prepared to go home after a night's nightmare. Just then, Sophia stopped. She looked around the living room, her eyes passing over every person in the room. Then slowly, she stepped into the center of it all. Everyone turned their gaze toward her, unsure of what she was about to do. Sophia stood tall, her expression calm and determined. Not like a 16-year-old girl, but like someone far beyond her years. She held the Taylor Swift concert ticket in her hand, the very thing that had sparked everything that went wrong tonight. With a clear and steady voice, she began to speak. "This ticket isn't just for a concert, it was my dream, a gift from my grandparents that meant a lot to me. But now..." She paused for a moment, locking eyes with the people around her. Then she continued, "I've realized that some things are more important than dreams, like dignity and respect. No one has the right to use money to bribe or threaten someone else." After those words, she raised the ticket so everyone could see it. And then, to everyone's shock, Sophia began tearing it into pieces. The sound of paper ripping echoed through the silent room. Everyone reacted differently to what they saw. Mia's jaw dropped in disbelief. She had wanted that ticket so badly she was willing to do anything for it, and now Sophia was destroying it right in front of her. My parents looked at Sophia with stunned expressions. A shift came over them as they realized they had made a terrible mistake, that they had failed to protect their granddaughter. Uncle Robert and Aunt Donna nodded in silent admiration. They looked proud of Sophia's strength and maturity. As for me, I was overwhelmed with pride. At that moment, I saw my daughter not just as a child anymore, but as a young woman with courage and character, someone who knew how to stand up for what was right. After tearing up the ticket, Sophia let the pieces fall gently to the floor. She looked around the room one last time and said, "I hope everyone here learned something from today. Nothing is more valuable than dignity and respect." At that moment, David stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Sophia, tears streaming down his face. He whispered, "I'm so proud of you." I joined them and pulled both of them into an embrace. In that moment, our little family felt stronger and more united than ever. Sophia's actions had stirred something in everyone in the room. They began to understand that material things mean nothing compared to values like self-respect, mutual respect, and family love. After that defining moment, we left the house in silence. No one said a word, but everyone knew their lives had changed forever after that Christmas night. 2 weeks after the incident at my parents' house, the criminal trial took place at the county courthouse. The case was considered severe enough to be fast-tracked, a message to the community about the importance of addressing family violence and protecting children. That morning, David, Sophia, and I arrived at the courthouse early. Despite her young age, Sophia was calm and composed. She understood that testifying was necessary to make sure justice was served. Our attorney, Mr. Michael Torres, had thoroughly prepared for the trial. Judge Patricia Henderson, a stern yet fair woman in her early 50s, presided over the case. Running the courtroom professionally and clearly, the prosecutor presented the evidence systematically. First was the video Uncle Robert had recorded, which clearly showed Nolan threatening Sophia with money and then slapping her. The clip was played in the courtroom, and many in attendance shook their heads in disbelief. Next were the injury photos taken by the police at the scene, the unmistakable imprint of a hand on Sophia's cheek and the wound inside her mouth. These visuals were undeniable. Witness testimonies followed. Uncle Robert gave an honest account of what he had seen. Aunt Donna and other relatives confirmed that Sophia had done nothing wrong, that Nolan had acted unjustifiably. However, the report from CPS officer Carol Thompson added serious weight to the case. She highlighted how Nolan's actions had not only caused physical harm, but also posed a long-term psychological risk to Sophia. Nolan's attorney tried to argue that he had been provoked and reacted out of a temporary loss of control, but he was unable to present any convincing evidence to support this defense. Then Sophia was called to the stand. She answered every question calmly and truthfully. When asked how she felt, she said, "I just wanted to keep the gift my grandparents gave me. I don't understand why Uncle Nolan got so angry that he hit me." Her honest words moved many in the courtroom, even the judge. Nolan also took the stand. He tried to claim that he only wanted to buy the ticket and never meant to hurt Sophia, but when pressed about why he slapped a 16-year-old girl, he couldn't offer any meaningful justification. Judge Henderson reviewed all the evidence and testimonies with great care, especially the video, which made it impossible to deny the violent nature of Nolan's actions. After a brief deliberation, she delivered her verdict. Nolan was sentenced to 2 years in prison for child assault and intimidation. In addition, he was ordered to pay Sophia $10,000 in damages, including emotional distress compensation. Nolan's face went pale when he heard the verdict and slumped into his chair. His attorney leaned in to whisper something, but it was clear there was little hope for an appeal. Judge Henderson added, "This case is a reminder that children must be protected from all forms of violence. There is no excuse ever for an adult to strike a child under any circumstance." She also addressed my actions, specifically my physical retaliation against Nolan. After reviewing the evidence and considering the context, she showed leniency. The court acknowledged that I had acted out of instinct to protect my daughter from violence. While the law does not condone vigilante justice, the emotional response of a mother in such a situation was understandable. In the end, I received a formal warning for the assault. Judge Henderson stressed that I should rely on legal channels rather than violence to resolve conflicts. She also expressed hope that I would learn from this event. Though my intentions were clear, she emphasized the need to trust in the justice system. I accepted the warning with sincerity and thanked the court for its fairness. Deep down, I knew I had done the right thing to protect Sophia, even if there were consequences. What mattered most was that justice had been served and my daughter was safe. After the trial, the video of Nolan slapping Sophia, along with the verdict, was covered by news outlets and quickly went viral across social media. The story became a powerful reminder of the importance of protecting children and refusing to tolerate domestic violence. Thousands of people commented, praising Sophia for her bravery and emotional maturity. Many also supported me as a mother who defended her daughter fiercely. For our family, the trial brought not only justice but closure. It marked the end of a painful chapter in our lives. Now we could move forward knowing that the system had stood up for those who needed protection most. After the trial, I decided to do something special for Sophia. Even though she had torn up her Taylor Swift concert ticket with incredible bravery, I knew deep down that she still dreamed of attending the show. Getting a ticket to the Eras Tour at that point felt almost impossible. They had sold out months ago, and on resale markets, the prices had skyrocketed to $2,000 or even $3,000 for a decent seat. But I didn't give up. I started asking everyone, friends, coworkers, strangers in online groups. I posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, and even Twitter, hoping to find someone with a spare ticket. Finding a ticket became my obsession. Every day after work, I spent hours scouring ticket sites, forums, and messaging anyone with a lead. David would gently remind me occasionally that Sophia had come to terms with not attending the concert, that she didn't want me exhausting myself. But I couldn't let it go. This wasn't just about a concert anymore. It was about showing my daughter that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, doesn't go unrewarded. After 2 relentless weeks of searching, luck finally came to us. Jake Morrison, a younger colleague at my company, had heard about our situation through the news coverage of the trial. Jake told me he had bought tickets to the show months ago to attend with his girlfriend, but they had recently broken up and something came up on the concert day. Instead of flipping the ticket for a profit, Jake offered to sell it to me at face value, $500. When he said that, I couldn't believe my ears. In a world where everyone was trying to make a buck off scarcity, someone offering a ticket at the original price felt like a miracle. I immediately transferred the money and thanked Jake with everything I had. He just smiled and said he admired how Sophia handled herself during everything that happened. That evening, while Sophia was doing her homework in her room, I called her to the living room. She looked curious, unsure of what was coming. I handed her the ticket and told her this was a reward, not for being a victim, but for being strong, brave, and true to herself. I also told her I was sorry that she had to endure what happened that Christmas night. When she saw the ticket, she threw her arms around me and said she already knew I had done everything possible to protect her. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but they were tears of pure joy this time. David was right there with us and joined in our warm family hug. He said he was proud of both of us, of Sophia for her courage and of me for never giving up. The night of the concert became one of the most beautiful memories our family has ever shared. I took Sophia myself, and when Taylor Swift performed the song she loved most, I watched my daughter shine with the brightest smile I had ever seen. In that moment, I realized something. Sometimes our most complex trials give us our most treasured moments. That concert wasn't just the fulfillment of Sophia's dream. It was a symbol that justice matters, that love wins, and no matter how dark things get, light always waits on the other side. 3 years have passed since that fateful Christmas night, and our family's life has changed in ways I never imagined. Cutting ties completely with my parents after the trial wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary. We haven't been in contact since the judge delivered her final verdict. Over the past 3 years, my parents have visited our house a few times, hoping to apologize and make amends. They especially wanted to see Sophia, maybe to offer her a direct apology for what happened. But Sophia has firmly declined every attempt. She told me she doesn't want to see the people who failed to protect her when she needed it most. Her maturity and resolve in standing her ground have made me even more proud of the young woman she's become. I've held the same position. Every time my parents came to our door, I didn't answer. I've learned that sometimes love means knowing when to say no and setting clear boundaries. As for Nolan, his life completely unraveled after the trial. He was released after serving 18 months of his sentence for good behavior, but the consequences of his actions have followed him ever since. To cover the court-ordered damages and legal fees, Nolan had to sell his mortgaged home to pay off his debts. He now lives in a small apartment and works low-wage jobs. His reputation in the business world has been destroyed. Nolan's daughter, Mia, lives with her mother in another state. After watching her father get arrested and sent to prison, she cut off all contact with him. And honestly, I think that was the healthiest choice she could have made. She deserves a positive, supportive environment to grow up in. Today, Sophia is 19, a freshman at Northwestern University on a full scholarship. She's majoring in psychology with hopes of becoming a therapist for children who've experienced trauma. Her own experience inspired her to help others in the way she once needed help herself. What happened 3 years ago forced Sophia to grow up faster than most, but it also taught her to set boundaries, to protect herself, and never to let anyone use power or money to control her. Those lessons have given her quiet confidence that's already incredibly shaped her college life. Sophia still loves Taylor Swift, but now she understands there are things more important than personal dreams. She's told me more than once that tearing up that ticket was her best decision ever. As a family, we're closer than we've ever been. We've learned to cherish the quiet moments together and never take the importance of protecting each other for granted. Still, sometimes I ask myself whether I should give my parents a second chance. It's a question I haven't found the answer to yet. And now I want to ask you the same question before ending the story. What would you do in my shoes? Would you give them another chance? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories like this one. That's the end of my story. Thank you for spending time with me, and I'll see you again at the next one.